In late 1861, Spanish, British, and French forces occupied the Mexican port city of Veracruz, supposedly to pressure Mexico into resuming debt payments that had been suspended. While Spain and Britain quickly negotiated agreements and withdrew, France had a much bigger plan. Using the debt crisis as a pretext, France launched a full-scale invasion, aiming to establish a Mexican empire under French control by installing a puppet emperor. This leads to a key question. Why did France invade Mexico in 1861? At the time, France was led by Emperor Napoleon III, a man driven by ambitions of economic prosperity and personal glory. He saw Mexico as an ideal target for several reasons. Economic potential. Napoleon III envisioned Mexico as a vital link between East and West, central to his dream of a global French commercial empire. Mexico's rich silver reserves also promised a way to stabilize the French currency. Strategic influence. Napoleon was wary of the growing power of the United States. By establishing a French-aligned empire in Mexico, he hoped to create a buffer against U.S. expansion and potentially curb American influence in the region. Diplomatic prestige. Installing Archduke Maximilian of Austria as Mexico's emperor could strengthen ties with Austria and enhance Napoleon's standing in Europe, especially after strained relations from his earlier Italian campaigns. But there was a major obstacle: the Monroe Doctrine, a U.S. policy that opposed European intervention in the Americas. Luckily for Napoleon, the American Civil War broke out in April 1861, keeping the U.S. too preoccupied to enforce the doctrine. In July 1861, Mexican President Benito Juarez suspended foreign debt payments, prompting France, Spain, and Britain to join forces to pressure Mexico. But once Spain and Britain realized France's true goal was to establish an empire, not just collect debts, they quickly struck separate deals with Mexico and pulled out, leaving France to act alone. France's invasion faced significant challenges. The Mexican populace largely opposed the idea of restoring a monarchy. Still, French forces captured Mexico City in 1863 and installed Archduke Maximilian as Emperor of Mexico. However, things took a sharp turn in 1865. With the Union victorious in the American Civil War, the U.S. could finally refocus on foreign policy. Determined to uphold the Monroe Doctrine, the U.S. started supplying Mexican resistance forces with weapons and volunteers, while applying diplomatic pressure on France to withdraw. At home, Napoleon III faced growing discontent over the costly and unpopular Mexican adventure. With tensions rising in Europe, especially the looming conflict with Prussia, Napoleon decided it was time to cut his losses. He began gradually withdrawing French troops from Mexico. This left Emperor Maximilian isolated. In 1867, Mexican forces loyal to President Juarez captured and executed Maximilian, bringing an end to France's failed attempt to establish a puppet empire in Mexico. Not long after, Napoleon III's own empire, the Second French Empire, would meet its end, following his defeat in the Franco-Prussian War. And that's the story of France's ill-fated invasion of Mexico, a mix of ambition, strategy, and ultimately failure. Thanks for watching, and a special shout-out to my Patreon supporter, Rostislav19117, for making this episode possible.